We'll make a start on tonight's meeting, the first one. I hope everybody had a good summer break. We have Councillor Elliott and Councillor Hawkes on WebEx, and we'll start with apologies, and I have Councillor Robinson. I don't think there's any more, no. So that's item 1. Item 2, sign the minutes. Oh, sorry, hold on. Oh, I forget how to do this now. Just press it. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McGrath, apology, please. And I possibly will have to leave early myself, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, to sign minutes of previous meeting held on the 4th of July, and that's been done earlier. Any declarations of interest? No, that's okay. So we'll go to item 4, and I'll hand over to John News, please. John.
Thank you, Chair. This is the monthly Estates Matters report. Number of matters for decision for members tonight is set out in section 2, relating to Mullinascardy Caravan Park in Lisnaskea, and it's to assign the leasehold that was previously agreed with Mullinascardy Holiday Park, and assign a request from the leasee to assign that leasehold interest to a private individual in the care of TCS Pension Fund. At paragraph 2.2, request regarding lands at Kilmaccormack Close from Northern Ireland Housing Executive. The Council holds a 10,000-year nominal rental lease at lands at Kilmaccormack Close, and the Northern Ireland Housing Executive has requested to take back some of those lands to create some additional parking, which will also facilitate the passage of emergency vehicles. So we've been asked to surrender a portion of our lease interest at that site, as set out in Appendix 1. The map shows the area that Housing Executive would like to take repossession of. So we've assessed it, and it's recommended that approval be granted. And as said, noted within the report, no adverse impact on the adjacent play areas, and indeed there would be a community benefit from the proposed actions. At paragraph 2.3, lands at Termon Road in Carrickmore, members may be familiar with the lands in question. Council has a lease of lands at Termon Road, Carrickmore, which is holding over pending clarifications with the owner, St Colin Kills GFC. The Carrickmore Handball Club have been engaging with the Council and with St Colin Kills GFC around plans to develop new facilities at that site. And the Handball Club has requested permission to use a portion of the car park area, which the Council leases from St Colin Kills. So we've been in contact with both clubs, and the landowner is in agreement with it. St Colin Kills is in agreement with the proposal, and the Carrickmore Handball Club. So it's noted that that's recommended for approval as well. At Loch McCrory, this is one members may recall it was ongoing for some time. It has come back into the chamber now because we've had advice from the solicitors acting for the Friends of Loch McCrory that the group now intend to form a community interest club. So the lease will be executed in the name of Friends of Loch McCrory Limited CIC. So that is the only change. It's a legal formality, but nonetheless one that we need council approval for. Also noted then at 2.5, in March 2021, Council approved surrendering a leasehold of a strip of land at O'Kane Park. Pardon me, so that the landowner, Northern Ireland Housing Executive, could dispose of some of the lands to DFI Roads for the provision of pedestrian and cycle paths. So LPS have now come back with an assessed compensation of £1,700 that will be payable to the Council, and it's recommended that this is accepted. At 2.6 then, through 261 to 266, a number of requests for permission to use council properties, and again recommended that they're all approved. 2.7, 1 through to 2.711, a number of requests for retrospective approval of council property. These were requests that came in over the course of the summer. and after the date of the last environmental services meeting and council meeting. So again, they're really there for retrospective approval. A number of items then within section 3 of the report for information, again relating to use of council venues and facilities, and say again in accordance with the council's policies and procedures. At 3.11, the use of Enniskillen Town Hall by Fermanagh Unionist Association for a Q&A session with students on the 24th of August. And then finally in 3.2, the execution and signing of, with the council seal of some documents between the council and Mid-South West Region Growth Deal and the other councils in that partnership. Section 4 sets out resource implications in respect of each of the items mentioned previously. And then Section 9, the recommendations are set out at 9.1 that the council approves point 1 through to point 7, and then at 9.2.8 and 9.2.9 that the council notes the use of council venues and the sealing of the documents. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Gormaga Carley, again, I had a question about the land in Kilmaccormack, but you answered it there, John, that it does have no impact on the recreation provision. So I'm quite happy to propose the recommendations at 9.1 and 9.2. Chair, Gormaga.
Thank you. John?
Thank you. And Chair, I'd like to second the proposals at 9.1, 9.2, and also pass on my thanks to the staff and Frankie Roof, who gave a wonderful tour the night that we hired the venue. So thank you very much.
Okay. Is everybody content with that? Yeah. Okay. So we will now go on to 4.2 to consider report on consultations.
Okay,
And back to John.
Thank you, Chair. Members will note there's a number of draft consultation responses provided in the pack. For in particular, for consideration tonight, All Island Strategic Rail Reviews, the Strategic Environmental Assessment, the Utility Regulators Electricity Connection Policy Framework Review, DAERA's call for evidence on the future operational protocol to assess the impacts of air pollution on the natural environment, and also DAERA's consultation on Northern Ireland's first carbon budget. Members will note that delegated authority was sought from Council last night in respect of the first 3 of those consultations, because the All Island Strategic Rail Review consultation closes on the 29th of September. The Utility Regulators Policy Framework Review closes also on the 29th of September, and the Operational Protocol call for evidence closes on the 15th of September. So those 3 in particular, committee has the council delegated authority to approve those responses for submission following tonight's meeting, and any additional comments that may be forthcoming. And then the first carbon budget said that will then come back to council for approval at the start of October, in time for the 11th of October submission timeframe. The detailer and overview, the key issues for decision is set out in section 2. Section 2.1 in particular, All Island Strategic Rail Review, mindful that members did consider a separate motion on this matter last night. And the draft responses as presented within Appendix 2 of the report. Appendix 1 is the actual Strategic Rail Review, Strategic Environmental Assessment Consultation document. Members will note that the review covers a period up to 2050, sets out 6 high-level goals, which include contributions to decarbonisation, improving all-island connectivity, enhancing regional accessibility, stimulating economic activity, encouraging sustainable mobility, and achieving economic and financial feasibility. The review set out to consider a long list of potential rail sector interventions under 4 categories of new lines, infrastructure enhancements of existing lines, infrastructure enhancement in the form of new stations, and frequency improvements. And The intention, as set out within the consultation process, is that there'll be the publication of a final report incorporating feedback from the SEA consultation by the end of this calendar year. In terms of the council's main response, this has been discussed previously by members in a number of meetings, and the draft response highlights the need, as council has stated previously, for the reinstatement of railway lines across the district, including not just the main towns but the wider rural hinterland, and that's acknowledged a number of times within the draft response. We've also noted council's deep concern regarding the absence of a plan to reconnect anywhere within the Fermanagh area into the proposed rail network. Also noted the extending the rail network to this council area in the region will be an important step in addressing levelling up and achieving regional balance in Northern Ireland and across this island, and also finally acknowledging the impact on locally important habitats and species, which should also be considered in any future proposals that are forthcoming under the Strategic Rail Review. At section 2, Chair, if you know, I'll go through all 4 drafts, and then happy to take comments at the end if you don't mind. In terms of utility regulators, electricity connection policy framework review, again, I think it's timely given some of the comments that members had last night on this matter, particularly the council's draft response highlights the challenges around grid connection within this council area and the need for further engagement with the utility regulator and with the network provider. We've highlighted the clear need to remove any obstacles within this framework policy towards renewable energy adoption. Also highlighted that the current cost of expensive network upgrades is an inhibitor to the adoption of renewable energy generation, and that's particularly within local districts, and work that the council will be looking at across the district area. And then finally, given the incidence of fuel poverty within Northern Ireland, the need within this policy framework approach to minimise the impact on those who are most vulnerable that should be a guiding principle in all of the work that's taken forward under the policy network review. Moving on to 2.3, the call for evidence for the future operational protocol to assess the impacts of air pollution on the natural environment. This was launched by DAERA in the middle of July, towards the end of July earlier this year. And it followed the public consultation on the draft ammonia strategy, which was undertaken back in January, and which Council had previously submitted a response to. This current call for evidence runs for a period of 8 weeks and closes next week on the 15th of September. DAERA has been developing a way forward to tackle challenging and growing problems of ammonia emissions in Northern Ireland, and the consultation notes that the key objective is to deliver a solution which achieves both a protected and improved environment and a sustainable agricultural sector. Within the call for evidence, they've particularly asked for any information or evidence relating to assessment of air quality impacts on designated sites and protected habitats, and the intention then to develop an operational protocol which would be subject to approval by any incoming minister and the new executive. We have noted that while the council has limited scientific evidence that can be presented as part of the response, it is critical that this response is provided by the council. A number of members have provided comments previously to officers, and those comments have all been incorporated within this draft response, and it's attached within Appendix 6 to the report for your approval this evening. And finally, then moving on to the consultation on Northern Ireland's first carbon budget. As we previously noted, the Environment and Services Committee, this consultation closes on the 11th of October. It's an important consultation because it will provide feedback on the carbon budget's targets and the advice of the Climate Change Committee to inform the way forward for DAERA. Climate action is a high priority for all of the Northern Ireland executive departments, and indeed for this council, and we're one of the first councils in Northern Ireland to declare a climate emergency in 2019. The council's own targets within our strategy set will anticipate a net zero district by 2042, which is actually 8 years in advance of the Northern Ireland target of 2050. So key points that we've noted within the draft response at this stage set out in Appendix 8 are emission targets must be achieved in a sustainable manner, which acknowledges the critically important role that agriculture plays in the local economy, and that's particularly within the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council area. The need for investment in a just transition towards a more sustainable and regenerative agricultural measures, and that will require support and indeed investment from central government. Finally, we also noted Council's own climate change and sustainable development strategy, which sets a more ambitious target for this district, but that achievement of that ambitious target will be reliant on wider developments and progress within the Northern Ireland context. And finally, I said the need for a more sustainable and better infrastructure to provide communities with more choice and alternatives to private car ownership. And this was in conclusion, just noting that it must be a just energy transition, that the impact of low carbon energy will have an impact on households and consumers, and it shouldn't disproportionately impact on the most vulnerable sections of our population, who are also, as noted in previous consultation response to the utility regulator, those who are also most likely to be experiencing fuel poverty. And finally, just for information at this stage, just a heads up to members on another important consultation which will be coming to a future meeting, which is around producer responsibility obligations, and that's very much around extended producer responsibility. Members may be familiar, may be aware that earlier this summer, Westminster DEFRA delayed the implementation of EPR payments from producers by 12 months through to 2025. And that's something certainly that we want to reflect in the draft response that comes to members in October. Sorry, I'm out of breath now. So I will happy to take any questions. Chair.
Thanks, John. And we'll go to Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I appreciate the lengthy and detailed explanation that we have had there, just of those different responses. And accordingly, I'd be more than happy to propose the adoption of the various responses that we have here, although I would just want to touch on the response to the All-Ireland Strategic Rail Review, although we did have a lengthy discussion on this last night. And I would just say that whilst it's welcome, of course, that there is the natural highlighting of the relevance that this has for closing the deprivation gap in rural communities such as the ones that we represent, I think that it's useful that the response that we have does contextualize the issue in terms of the role that railway expansion has to play in terms of fitting with the plans and strategies that we have as a district in terms of Mid-South West and the various other plans and strategies that we have for bolstering the economic performance of our region and improving the quality of life of our people. And I think in particular, highlighting actually the extent of present transport poverty within the district, mentioning specifically the number of people in Omagh, in Enniskillen, and indeed in a number of our smaller rural villages that at present don't actually have access to a car, and the necessity that that poses in expanding the range and the extent of public transport provision that there is in the district, and the critical role that railway has to play in that. And so I think that it is important that we press for the commitments that have been made around Omagh to be fulfilled, but more importantly, making sure that the total and utter oversight that has been applied to Fermanagh, that is rectified in due course. So
Thank you.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you. Dermot.
Thanks, Chair. Just want to come in again on the All-Ireland Rail Review, just to agree with what Stephen has said. There was a very useful discussion last night about it, and maybe some of the comments from last night could be taken to be part of the consultation response. In particular, would like to mention Councillor McCloughery mentioned the fact that we potentially have lost the World Cup because of not having the sufficient rail infrastructure in the country. And there was comments. The comments about Fermanagh being left out are important, yes, but it's not just about Fermanagh being left out. It's about the entire northwest region and the lack of ambition for that region. You know, people in Garrison and Balik will be disappointed that there isn't a railway line proposed for the western region coming down as far as Sligo, you know. So that's part of the problem as well, is the lack of ambition for the northwest region as a whole. So if we could have that into the response would be useful. Thank you, Chair.
Is that, and your second? And that's okay to go in, John, yeah? Yeah. Is everybody happy enough? Yeah, okay, thank you. On to item 5, John Boyle, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the standard monthly report effectively on street name and number and the dual language report. You will see, Chair, that there are a number of roads, streets that have been for consideration under dual language, 7 of them in total. One of them met the criteria of 15% of the number of occupiers on the street who agreed with it, and that was for McFarland Terrace. And therefore, Chair, the Irish is included in Table 3, if members would please agree with that also. Just in relation to Section 3, yeah, at a past meeting, I think it was in March, at this committee, members asked for further details on the activity on which the number of applications which had been approved, the number of installations and so on. Those, you will see, Chair, are included in Table 5. Just to put it into context, to date, we have received 390 applications for street names and roads for dual language. You will see from the table there that we have processed 127 up until the end of June. Of those, the committee here has approved 84, so those 84 have met the criteria. Of those 84, there were 541 signs which were required on those 84 roads or streets. And the activity level of the number of signs that are ordered and the number of signs installed and so on is given in Table 5 with a total expenditure of £230,808. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves the installation of the dual language sign for the name in McFarland Terrace, and in accordance with the street name and numbering policy of the dual language element of it. Thank you, Chair.
Tommy?
Margaret Carley, happy to propose the recommendation, Chair.
Me too. Do we have somebody to second? Stephen, thank you. John, you just want to come in there?
Yeah, my party have consistently opposed part of this policy, in that a councillor can propose and that 15% can approve. And again, this shows there's actually one road there where nobody indicated that they would like a sign, which is brought to bring that into question, so we will be opposing.
It's okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. Is everybody else in agreement? Okay, thank you.
Right, Chair. All right. My hand up there.
Oh, sorry, Keith, I didn't see you there. How do I do? I just press that.
Just listen to them.
Oh, just come in, Keith, there, sorry.
Is that me now, is it? Yeah.
Yep, sorry, thank you.
No, I just, as I said on previous months, as I say, with regard to the financial costs of this, that the DUP will be voting against it. Thank you.
That's okay. Majority for it, haven't we? Not okay to vote. Well, I think we've got a majority in favour, so I don't see the point really of going to a vote. No, okay. On to item 6.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is under the same policy, the street name and the numbering policy, and especially for those new members, I think this maybe is the first report in relation to this in the new mandate. Councils are responsible for direction of or the naming of developments, of new developments, which are proposed and applications come into the council in relation to that. We have received one for the erection of 164 dwellings situated between the Hospital Road and Killyclogher Road and Campsie and Omagh, and members will be aware of the site being the former hospital site. The standard process for it is that the developer would indicate the names of which he would like the name or the streets to be named. We have in relation to the street name and numbering policy, we normally go down historical routes, looking at the town land names to see if they can be incorporated into it. In this site, it is, yes, one development site, but it has 3 entrances, 2 from the Hospital Road, one from the Killyclogher Road, and to facilitate easy identification of the properties by emergency services and postal services, the site has been divided into 3 distinct areas, each with a road and entrance, each with a road requiring a road name. The Camoan River is in the area, and the developer has suggested the names of Camoan Gardens, Camoan Avenue, and Camoan Crescent. And there is the former Camoan Hill residential home was also located on the site of the former hospital site. So therefore, Chair, it's proposed that the committee approves the name Camoan Gardens, Camoan Avenue, and Camoan Crescent to identify the development. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, John. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. And in this instance, I think that I would be content to propose the recommendations because I think the word Camoan, it's well known, but it's not overused in that part of the town. But it still has a strong connection to the geography and the history of the area. And so I think that this largely represents a sensible proposal. So I'm happy enough to go along with it.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, I know this area particularly well as well, and I agree with what Stephen has said with the historical links, so I'm happy to second.
Okay, thank you. Marty?
Chair, I agree with what's been said. I was going to second, but happy to support.
Okay, all in agreement? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to item 6, which is back to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. This item 6.1 is an update on Northern Ireland Local Authority collected municipal waste statistics for the period Q4 of 2022-2023, which was January, February, and March of this year. This is a standing quarterly report for information. It's as noted in the report, the statistics at this stage, because they are official statistics, are provisional still, and only become final figures when the 2022-2023 annual report is published, and that's expected in November of this year. The appendices 1, 2, and 3 provide the detail of the quarterly report from DAERA, and in particular, so was just drawing members' attention to a number of points. First of which is the proportion of waste collected by each council broadly reflects the population split across the 11 council areas, and as might be expected from Annanoma District Council collects the least amount of local authority collected municipal waste arisings. In terms then of recycling, as is also noted within their report, statistics do reflect seasonal variations, which is driven very much by quantities of garden waste that are sent for composting during the summer season. And that's reflected in the statistics. And from Annanoma, the household recycling rate for reuse, dry recycling and composting was 44.3% during this period. Noted just that the Northern Ireland average is 45.7%. So that's something that we will be continuing to focus on. However, within that, the figures do also break down the percentage of dry recycling, which was effective. If members want to think about it, it's what goes into the blue bin. Fermanagh and Omagh District Council area achieves one of the highest percentage rates in that regard, 28.5% during that period, with only one council achieving a higher rate. Finally, I suppose the latter 2 points, just to note, are around the energy recovery rate and around the percentage of waste, household waste going to landfill. Within Fermanagh and Omagh, that was 18.3%. And reading that in conjunction with the landfill rate for Fermanagh and Omagh, which was 36.5%, which would be at the higher end of waste sent to landfill and across the 11 councils, that's reflective that we are one of the remaining councils with an active landfill. Members will be aware, however, that there's a closure plan for Dramee landfill is being developed at the minute. So we'd expect to see both of those figures, the energy recovery rate percentage increasing significantly in 12 months' time, and also the percentage of waste sent to landfill decreasing very significantly as well, as was the case in other council areas when active landfill, when active landfills were closed. So the reports there for information at this stage, and recommendation is the council notes the contents of the report at this time.
Thank you, John. John.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to propose to note. I wonder, would this be a suitable opportunity to mention my AOB, one of them anyway? It will not take long.
Oh, yeah. We go to the AOB, we go through the...
Go through the full, okay.
Yeah.
So I just propose them to note.
Okay, can we have a seconder then, please? All in agreement? Yeah, okay, thank you. So item 7. Or are you going 6.2? Oh, sorry, I thought you were going through all of them. Right, 6.2 then, John.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Again, this is another report for members to note. This has now become it's an annual report on the implementation of the Council's previously agreed play park strategy. As noted within the report, the play park strategy is a 10-year strategy which was launched in early 2020. At the time, I don't think anybody knew the events or could have foreseen the events that were about to unfold. Subsequently, first in terms of COVID, and then the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and the ripple effects that has had on particularly on the economy and society as a whole, but in particular on the construction industry and supply chains, increased labour costs and material costs. The report provides an update on the implementation of the play park strategy over the course of the last 2 years. We're currently in year 3 of the 10-year strategy. At this point in time, we've completed 16 play park upgrades at a cost of £1.112 million investment, with a further 9 to be completed by the end of this current financial year within the available capital budget of approximately 600,000. So that by the end of this financial year, we'll have completed approximately 23% of the anticipated play park upgrades and improvements, but at a significantly increased projected cost. The detail of the parks that have been completed thus far and that will be completed by the end of March next year are set out in tables 1 and tables 2. In particular, so it was just reflecting on the course of the course of the last 12 months. This time last year, we'd had the opening of the Grange Destination Play Park, and I suppose unfortunately that was somewhat marred in the early stages of the summer when misuse of the play equipment resulted in temporary closure of part of the play park. But we've been able to work with the contractor and put in additional mitigations, and we were thankfully able to reopen the park fully before the end of June, in time for the summer holidays. Over that same period, we've also had a number of very positive public consultations and engagements in both Enniskillen and Omagh that included SurveyMonkey online and in-person meetings involving members of the community, local groups and DEA members. The engagement from both of those processes have been very positive, and the numbers who had engaged in the process I suppose always help to strengthen the feedback and the plans that are being developed for future years. We remain on course to deliver against the objectives of the Play Park strategy in terms of that objective of improving the quality of play available and play opportunities available within the 97 redeveloped play parks. And so the particular focus there was on upgrading all of those 97 play parks to a minimum silver play value standard, and so we are on track to do that. Within the report, I've also set out the anticipated future work that we're progressing at the minute, and that includes developing tender processes and tender packs to go out for works in 2024, 2025, subject to confirmation of budgets. And I suppose it would be probably remiss even at this stage, and I know this is a report that's for information, but before we get into planning for 2024, 2025, that we didn't reflect within this the comment at the outset, which was around the impact of economic crisis, increases in construction costs, supply chain issues, and the impact that has had on quite a number of our capital projects, all of which will drive us with even more energy to try and explore opportunities for external funding. I say when the Play Park strategy was originally approved, it was with an anticipated expenditure of 3.7 million, and certainly our latest estimates would suggest that figure by the end of 2030 will have increased very significantly. And so we will be looking to maximise any third-party opportunities for funding, particularly as we look at some of the play parks that we would expect to redevelop in the later years of the strategy. So it's presented here tonight for information, and happy to take. A recommendation is the council notes the update in respect of Play Park strategy implementation at the 31st of August 2023.
Thank you, John. Anthony?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to John for that update there. I propose to note it, and I just want to commend the staff for the contractors that have done some of the work on in my own village there in Rushing Park and Garrison. Feedback's very good from chatting parents there, and the kids is very enjoyable, and I just want to commend on the good work, very high standard work on it, and of course up the road in Bellacoo as well. They made a great job of it, and I know at the time there was a bit of negativity about it when the smaller wee parks were going to be closed, and it's nice to see that they've transformed them well now, and there's wee park benches and picnic tables and stuff. So people is kind of seeing the benefit of it now. So I just like to commend the contractors and the work of it, and say well done.
Thank you. Tommy?
Hi, Margaret Kelly. Thank you, Chair. Just a point of accuracy at 2.2 on table 2. I see Erne East Lisbelaw is included there. Lisbelaw is in the Skillen DA, just a point of accuracy, but other than that, happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Likewise, just to get some clarity, just on 2.6, where it discusses the 5-year capital plan. This will enable further progress in respect of play parks in West Tyrone, Dromore. Just looking at table 3, is that supposed to be Drumquin, or is it Dromore?
Sure. Sorry, that I'll check that. I think when I look at the names of the parks, I think it should be into Dromore, but I'll double check that. I don't know whether that's if you're happy, I'll come back and I will clarify that with you.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we've had it first and second, proposed and seconded, and everybody's in agreement? Thank you. 6.3.
Sorry, Chair. Apologies. This is a report on the work of the A5N2 Cross-Border Committee. And again, a report for information at this point in time. The report sets out the background of the A5N2 Cross-Border Committee, the membership of that committee, and the suppose, the operation of that committee. The secretariat function rotated to Monaghan County Council in November 2022, and this report just provides an update on the minutes from the previous meeting of the A5N2 Cross-Border Committee held on the 23rd of March. A copy of the draft minutes is attached to the Appendix 1. There has been a subsequent meeting of the A5N2 Cross-Border Committee in August, which approved those 23rd of March minutes. So they're presented to members here tonight for information. We have 4 members from within our own council, obviously, who sit on that group as well. But members are asked to note the draft minutes here tonight from the 23rd of March.
Okay, nobody's indicating, but can we have a proposer and a seconder? Stephen and Marty, thank you. All agreed? Thank you. 6.3.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. So a single item within the Director's report this month. Members will be familiar with Balcus, one of our larger employers within the Fermanagh Noma district, also the largest manufacturer of wood pellets in UK and Ireland, a number of sites across those islands, but is based out in Killadees. Over the recent weeks and indeed over recent months, Balcus has been participating in a number of council events, including community planning and climate change activities. And following these engagements, Balcus has been in touch with officers to invite members to visit Killadees site to learn more about Balcus and the wider forestry sector's contribution to the local economy within Fermanagh, indeed further afield. And they're particularly looking at not just their work in respect of timber products within the district and sustainable building materials, but also the work that they've been doing in respect of renewable energy. So they have proposed a half-day study visit as set out within the paper, which would include a site tour, presentation, a roundtable discussion, and some networking. So the recommendation within section is that the council notes the proposed study visit invitation, and we would intend to then bring that forward so more formally through Democratic Services in terms of agreeing dates and the mechanics of any visit that would be agreed.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Chair. I was lucky enough in the last mandate as part of the Environmental Committee. We had a tour with the then chair of that committee and myself and Councillor Coyle. That's Siobhan or Curry. So I would highly recommend it, and I believe it'll be interesting to see how they brought forward some of the ideas, because that was pre-COVID, and it'll be interesting to see how much that has come on. So I would propose the noting and highly recommend that anybody that's available to go on that. I will definitely be making myself available to go back and see that site again.
Just opposite. Okay, and can we have some seconder, please? Thank you, Roy. All agreed? Thank you. Item 7, John.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, this is in relation to what is called model terms and conditions, which may be specified in entertainment licenses. Under the legislation, councils are responsible for entertainment licenses, and at various times and places there are certain restrictions placed on those licenses, and a license can only be granted by the council under those terms and conditions, and the owner of the premises or whatever must comply with those terms and conditions. There are model terms and conditions which started off in 1986 with the Department for Environment, and were updated in 1998, which were model terms and conditions, and in 2014 they were again looked at, and it's only now that that review has came to a conclusion, and the legislation requires that any of those terms and conditions that the council must have regard to the model terms and conditions. Now, that doesn't necessarily state that we must apply them to our licenses that we issue, But whilst there's no obligation for us to apply them, if we go outside of those, we must demonstrate that those requirements are satisfied by other means. So largely in terms of whether we apply them in our licenses, we largely do in order for compliance. The model terms and conditions are included there, but the main changes are additional requirements regarding sport and documentation, new rules regarding outdoor areas and events section, introduction of later opening hours in certain circumstances, new crowd safety controls, additional licensing of conditions for premises, and also additional appendix for outdoor entertainments. As you'll appreciate, most of them relate to health and safety of premises for entertainment purposes. In order to bring them into our own regulations, it's proposed that officers from the licensing services will work with colleagues across all of the councils to see how best to implement these terms and conditions, and we will bring a future report to council with the final agreed position as to where they sit within our own regulations. Chair, just to close off another issue with regard to licensing, there was an issue raised at the previous environmental services in January of this year, where a member requested the development of a code of practice for tips to be included within licensing. We have taken legal advice on the issue, and it's determined that there's no legislative basis for considering conditions to be included in licensing. It's largely, the licensing system is largely, as I said, to ensure health and safety of patrons, and it doesn't go around, it doesn't deal with the softer issues of tips for those who are working in those establishments. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the revised terms and conditions, the model terms and conditions, which may be specified, and notes that a future report will be presented to Council on the final agreed position. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, John. We don't have anybody indicating to speak, so can we have a proposer, please? Dermot and second, Decky. All agreed? Thank you. And we'll go to you. Okay, so item 8 now we have the correspondence is just for noting 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 and 8.4. There isn't any other? No. So can we have a proposer, please? Anthony and John. Thank you. And we'll go to item 9, any urgent and relevant business. And the first person to contact me today was John. So.
I've spoken to the directors, and the one director feels that he covers both of these. So the first one is around the bus stops. I'm fairly sure, and I did speak to him earlier, we own the green ones, and I'm not sure who owns the sort of stony type ones. There's a few of them need the grass cut around them, and I was just wondering, is it ourselves or DFA are responsible? Because the couple that I looked at today, it makes access difficult, and if we knew who owned them, then we could maybe contact the relevant authorities, whether it's ourselves has to cut it or DFA. And the second one is around the bins, and I was dealing with a couple of groups that I do my historical work with, and it was raised that people would rather take their dry recyclables to the recycling centres rather than their brown food caddies, because they said they're stinking and covered in flies and I don't want to put them in my car. So I was wondering, would it be possible, and John, I think you have this covered, would it be possible that we would get the brown bins emptied as a priority, and then if we can empty the blue ones, if we're only emptying one of the two, that it would be the brown bin that would be emptied rather than the blue one?
Thank you, Chair. How about I just
Yeah,
come back on
go
those now?
ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just in respect of the query regarding bus shelters, obviously there are two types of bus shelters predominantly across the district. Those that are provided operated by TransLink, who are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of those. And there are a number of locations across the district where council will provide bus shelters for school buses, so specifically where school children are getting picked up on those education runs. So those are the responsibility of council, and we do have a programme of maintenance and upkeep of those. I've been in touch with the staff who look after those. If there are a number of specific locations that need particular attention, happy to take the details of those after the meeting. I suppose what we would just note is that because over the course of the summer months, when the schools obviously aren't sort of in attendance, we tend to prioritise grass cutting work at other council sites. But as we now come back into September, we are aware there will be a maintenance programme, so staff will be out and will be maintaining the grass areas around those areas. And obviously, you're coming towards the end of the grass cutting season as well. But I say, if there's any particular locations of those school bus shelters that members want to draw attention to, how would they get the detail of those after the meeting? On the second point then, in terms of the hierarchy of the bin collection, we do have a waste contingency plan which sets out the order in which we prioritise the collection of bins. That's an operational document. That's one that's kept constantly under review, and over the course of actually the last number of months, we have been looking at the review around the hierarchy of brown bins, particularly during the summer growing season, when some residents may be using it for grass cuttings. So that is something we have actually actioned that in recent days, and updated our contingency procedures in that regard, and that will be taking effect immediately.
Okay. Okay, and the next person was Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. So back in July, following heavy rainfall and a subsequent landslide, the entrance to Slochan Glen near Drumquin was sealed off to the general public. As I understand it, the stairway in the area is still blocked by mud and rock, and one of the paths is still blocked by a tree that was ripped from its roots. Obviously, people in the Drumquin and indeed the wider area are concerned, just given the damage that's been done and the problems that this poses to many people who enjoy using it as one of our natural assets. So I would just like to ask for an update in terms of the remedial work that has been progressed in the area since the landslide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as members indicated, we all remember the heavy rainfall that we had in July, and particularly sometimes the very intense periods of very heavy rainfall in a short space of time. The topography of Slochan Glen is such that it is it's a very steep-sided glen, so when we have those heavy periods and very intense periods of rainfall, it is prone to landslide and the landslip. So in that regard, unfortunately, there was damage done to the side of the glen in terms of a number of trees that were uprooted, and mud and rocks accumulated blocking the paths. So unfortunately, on the basis of health and safety, we have had to restrict access into that site at this point in time. There was initial work done, inspection work done at that stage, but obviously because the glen was in, I suppose, the vegetation in that location was in full bloom, if I can put it that way, it makes the actual geotechnical inspection more troublesome. So staff are aware of the need to go back and do some further technical inspection. It's geotechnical expertise, I think is what we've talked about, needs to come in, but that is going to be reliant on the vegetation having died down. So it will be later into the autumn time when we get that work and that inspection work completed. That will give us a better idea of the nature of the remedial work that will be required, and then obviously we'll just progress that through the normal processes within the council.
It's okay. Okay, and Marty? No, that's okay. That's withdrawn. And John, we got a request from Alison. If John's just gonna.
Yes, Chair. We have a request in relation to Councillor Earl Thompson, has in his capacity as the council's veteran champion, been requested to attend a meeting with the Northern Ireland Veterans Commissioner in Belfast on the 7th of September. and it's requested that the attendance and the associated travel be considered as an approved duty.
Have a proposer? Oops. Tommy?
Margaret Carley, yeah, happy enough to propose that in line with his council duties, Chair.
Thank you. Somebody second? Stephen?
Sorry, Chair, my hand's up from Councillor
Oh,
McLaughlin.
sorry. Sorry, Keith. Oh, go ahead. I don't have to press anything at all.
No, I just with what Councillor McLaughlin said there about the brown bins, is this that the council would be prioritising the brown bin over the blue bin? It's just I know a lot of people's not recycling the brown bins now because they haven't been lifted. So can I get a bit of clarification on that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, under the contingency arrangements at the minute, the contingency arrangements would see us lifting the blue bin before the brown bin. But given the increased content that you're likely to see in a brown bin over the summer months, particularly from grass arisings and grass cutting, and if that's left to decompose over the 2-week period, it can leave the bins very heavy. So what we have to decide to do within the contingency plan is to prioritise during that growth season the brown bins over the blue bins on the basis that the dry recycling is that maybe, well, there's more opportunities for the clean, dry, empty flat to sort of maximise capacity within the blue bins. So yes, I suppose the short answer is yes, we will be prioritising the brown bins over the blue bins during specified periods of the year, so tying back and linking in with the grass growing season.
Can I just come back in on that, Chair, please?
Yes, you can for a
Thank
minute
you.
or so.
To be honest, probably in my listening to people, it's not people within my area that would have normally had their bins missed, sort of thing. It was more probably John's area or north people that I would have come across day to day that would have been given out about their bins not being lifted. And it's just my only concern would be if the people were putting out or not putting out their brown caddies, they wouldn't be putting grass into them anyway. But if they weren't putting out the brown caddies, would the bin lorry drive past a blue bin? Get that? Right.
So, Chair, I think I got most of it. I know that it broke up slightly there, but at this point in time, the review that we're looking at is in relation to the brown bins. So the larger 240 litre brown bins, and in terms of the blue bins, when those are separate collection dates, and it's rather than the smaller food caddies, which, as you quite rightly, the member quite rightly points out, wouldn't include grass raisins in any case.
Thanks for that. Thank you.
Okay. Quick.
Right. Sorry, John, Director. Thank you, Chair. John, it would be the actual food. People are saying that they're putting waste food products in a small brown bin and then it's not collected, so it's sitting for a month. And then having to take it in their cars. And they're telling me they would rather have that bin emptied than their dry recyclables, which aren't going to stink or attract flies. And they would put them in their car and take those to the recycling plants, but they don't want to take the brown food caddies. So if they put out both their bins and they're only going to empty one, they would like their brown bin emptied. And I don't know I think it's feasible if the staff are prepared to do that. And that's what people want. Because a lot of people are going to stop using the brown bins if they're not being emptied, because they're not going to take them to the recycling areas because they do not want to put these into their cars because they stink and they're covered in flies.
Chair, happy to certainly take those comments on board. As I said, at the minute we've updated the contingency plan. It's an operational document. We do update it on a continual basis. Certainly take those comments on board from the member and pick it up with the waste team following this meeting.
Thanks for that. We're going to go into confidential now. Can we have a proposer, please, Marty and John will give an update. John Hughes will now give us an update on confidential.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, during confidential business, members received a confidential report on two estates matters, one relating to off-street car parking and the second relating to conveyancing and execution of leases on a property of land within the Fermanagh Noma District Council area. And members approved both the recommendations set out within the paper.
Have a proposer? Robin? Seconder? Lane? All agreed? Thank you and safe home, everybody.